All right, all right, all right. As you guys get situated and seated, we do have 2 stacks of chairs. If you have a line at one, please come to the other one. Man, I want to celebrate this last Sunday in beach baptism where people in this room followed Jesus in believers' baptism. So let's give a round of applause. Come on. I think we beat this dead horse last week. Baptism does not save you, but it is a profession to the rest of the world about the relationship you have with Jesus, and it is a tough step for new believers to take. So congratulations to all those that went to believers' baptism on Sunday, and all the faces I saw here that were just there to support. That was awesome also. So really good to see all you guys out there. All in all, we had 12 students get baptized. 12, yeah. It's incredible. All right, so that worship set rocked my socks off. That was incredible. If you guys took a second and looked around, you'll notice that a lot of your leaders had their eyes closed and were just like straight getting down to the music. There's a reason for that. It's called worship music, right? It's to be worshiped. It's a time of worship. I know, like, man, it's real weird to like dance and put my hands up because everybody's watching me. It ain't about them. It's about you and God. Close your eyes, get into it. I'm gonna get into it every time. You can think I look freaky or funny or whatever. Trust me, I'm getting down because my language is music. And when there's some good worship music playing, I'm gonna get into it. And next week, give it a try. Close your eyes and just let it take you. Don't worry about who's watching you. Don't worry about who's standing next to you. Just get into the music, let it feel you, and get some worship on because it's kind of a magical experience, especially with a set like that when it really, really takes you somewhere. So I had a amazing Sunday, beach baptism. Because of beach baptism, I got to have Monday off because Pastor Tim and Pastor Steph are so sweet that because we worked double time on Sunday, they gave the whole office Monday off. Thank you for them. Yep, I took that opportunity to do a mandatory vaccination because I'm still in the military, so I had to go get my first round of the COVID shot. Whew, let me tell you about my Tuesday. Felt like I got hit by a bus. It was awful. So, man, I prayed most of Tuesday that God would make my body feel better, give me clarity of mind, wouldn't make me so sleepy, it would take my headache away. I prayed and I prayed and I prayed and I prayed and I prayed. And then I woke up today and I was feeling much better. I didn't know if I was going to get to be here to deliver this message. So Pastor Tim was on standby in case I needed a short order substitution. But you know what? My body and my mind were healed enough. And if I have the opportunity to get up here and speak to you, that's where I want to be because I care about y'all so much. Thank you. I appreciate that. So what I want to talk about is actually what I spent most of yesterday doing, which is prayer. Today, we're just going to talk about prayer. Here at Momentum Church, we have a list of nautical markers. If you don't know them, I suggest you go on the website, click who we are, and read about our nautical markers. There's 12 of them. And it's kind of the DNA that makes Momentum Church what it is. Number 1, not surprisingly so, is it's all about Jesus, because it's all about Jesus. Number 2 is that some things are only possible through prayer and fasting because we've seen the miracles happen. That's our number 2 nautical marker. We believe in it so much that we made it number 2. Now, I grew up with a very skewed view of what prayer was about. I grew up, I think I've said it in quite a few of these, Catholic. So I thought prayer was rote memorization of this thing that I didn't really understand. And if I did something bad, I just said like 4 Our Fathers and 3 Hail Marys, and I was good, to move on until the next time I did something bad. But I didn't understand that prayer was really a conversation. I thought it was on my knees, hands folded, eyes closed, in a church, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Like, that was prayer to me. Well, as I matured in my faith, I learned that, no, prayer is any time you have a conversation with God. You don't have to be kneeling in a pew with your hands folded. You could be driving, you could be eating, you could be walking. You could have a conversation with God. But I still didn't quite get it until actually I was in this room. About a year ago, I was in this room with Pastor Tim, and he challenged everybody. We're going to pray for 10 minutes. That's how we're going to start this staff meeting. We're all going to pray for 10 minutes, walk around the building, walk around outside, and just pray. And I raised my hand, my little ignorant hand. I was like, Pastor Tim, I don't know if I could pray for 10 minutes, man. How much can I ask for? And he stopped me and he said, that's where you're wrong. You don't only pray when you ask for something. Let me challenge you, Steve. I said, okay, Pastor Tim. He said, start your prayer with everything you're thankful for, and then get to the stuff that you want. He said, if you hit the 10-minute mark and you've already run out of things to be thankful for, we got to talk. So that's fair, Pastor Tim. I appreciate that. And I thought about it more and more. I mean, you guys have best friends, leaders. Most of you have kids. If you're a best friend, if you're in a relationship, or you have a kid, and all they ever do is come tug on your pants and ask for things, or they only want you there when they need something, well, that's not much of a relationship, right? See, as a dad, I love when my daughters come up to me and they pull on my pant leg. I say, "What's up, Riley? What's up, sir? What's up, Atlas?" And they just say, "Daddy, I just love you." That's the best thing in the world. It's way better than when they pull on my leg and go, "Daddy, I want the new Mermals Mermaid Hatchimal toy that I saw on TV." And then I make them go yell it into the chimney because I tell them that it's a two-way phone to Santa Claus year round. So anytime you're at my house, if they see something they want, they run and they yell it up the chimney. That's a life hack for you later on. It's pretty fantastic. Yep. So, if your kids or your friend are only there when they need something, that doesn't feel like much of a relationship. So take that opportunity when you pray. Start with what you're thankful for what God has already provided you. Hey, are you alive? Man, I'm thankful for that. You got clothes? You got food? You got a roof? You got friends? There's so many things to be thankful for before you get to the, "Hey, God, I want," or "Hey, God, I need." And that totally changed the way I pray. Now, this is the difficult part about prayer, is that sometimes what you're praying so hard for isn't what God has in store for you. And what that leads to is you trying to control the outcome of your own prayer. And when you and God have different ideas of your path in life, y'all want to take bets on who's going to win? Yeah. So I was in these shoes. I'm speaking from experience. When I was getting out of active duty and looking for a job post-military, I had my mind set. Like, I was going to go work for a government contractor. I was going to make buku dollars. It was going to be awesome. They were going to be beating down my door because I'd been in the military for 10 years and I had all these qualifications. It was going to be awesome. And I kept applying for these jobs, and there was nibbles here, and this looked good, and this looked good, and this looked good. But everything kept diverting me back to momentum. And I had it made up in my mind, I did not want to work in ministry. I had a lot of reasons. I had a few reasons in my head, I don't know if peeking behind the veil is going to hurt my personal faith journey. I don't know if seeing it as the big business and not just something I go to is going to hurt the way I feel about it. I don't know if I know enough about my faith to be able to minister to other people. So I had all these things going in my head. But that's just the enemy. The enemy is going to steal, kill, and destroy. He's going to lie. If you speak it into the universe, he's going to take it, he's going to twist it, he's going to throw it back at you. But every time I tried to diverge and go somewhere else and try to find my path elsewhere, God kept smacking me in the side of the head and pointing me back to this job right here. Until finally, after 6 months of struggling with it, here I am, right? And it just so happened to be right after a hard month of prayer and fasting. If you don't know, every January, right after the new year, Momentum Church comes together and does a 21-day fast called the Daniel Fast. And we end it on the night of worship. It's just what we do. So I had spent that whole month. Now, I can't do a Daniel fast because the Daniel fast is not eating much at all. And I happen to be in season during January. So I think me and my wife last year cut out all sugars, carbs, refined carbs, breads, pastas, all the things I really, really like. And that was the way that we fasted through. Because the whole point of a fast is not to starve. It's to make it so difficult that every time you want something, you remember why you're fasting, and it brings you back to God. That's the whole point. Not to starve yourself, but to remember why you're fasting. Bring you back to prayer. So through prayer and fasting, I found my way, and I found my job here at Momentum, which was not as the student pastor. It was as the groups director, which was a job I never did when I got here because we didn't have groups yet. And about a month and a half after I got here, through prayer and fasting, God revealed to Tim that I was supposed to be the new student pastor. And he pushed me into that job. And here I am. Right? Thank you. Yep, I'm happy to be here. So whenever I struggle with the idea of letting go and letting God, there is a story in the Bible that I turn to. That's what we're going to read tonight. And that happens to be Daniel, when he fell into a little thing called the lion's den. Maybe you know about it, maybe you don't. We're going to talk about it. So I'll give you a quick summary up to the point where he gets thrown in the lion's den. So Daniel was one of 3 people that were just under the king. And they were all really, really, really good prospects and really good servants. And the king loved all 3 of them, but Daniel was just a little better. He was pulling ahead. And by all metrics, it looked like when the king left, he was going to leave everything to Daniel. Well, the other 2 didn't like that so much. So they knew Daniel was deep in his faith, which the other two were not, and nor was the king. Daniel believed in the one true God, and they said, man, let's devise a plan, and let's take Daniel out. So they knew that the king was a little bit full of himself. They went to the king, and they said, hey, I have an idea. Let's make a 30-day decree where nobody is allowed to pray to anything or anybody except you. And if they do, they're found guilty and they're thrown in jail. What do you say? And the king was like, you know what? Like, I am pretty awesome. Let's do that. So he makes this decree, and of course, what does Daniel do? Because he's devout, he's faithful. He goes up to his room and he prays 3 times a day to God that this would end. Prays 3 times a day to God, over and over and over and over. So Daniel 6, verse 10 says, now when Daniel learned that the decree had been published, he went home to his upstairs room where the windows opened toward Jerusalem. 3 times a day he got down on his knees and prayed, giving thanks to his God, just as he had done before. So this isn't a new thing. It's just as he had done before. He didn't let the world change him. He continued his relationship with God just as it had stood before. So if it was what he was already doing before, those 2 other people, they knew exactly where he was going to be and when he was going to be praying. So they caught him. They brought him to the king, and they said, look, king, Daniel's praying to God. That's not you. You put out this decree. And the king was like, yeah, but like Daniel's awesome. I don't really want to punish him. And they were like, well, you put this decree out to everybody. Are you going to show them that you're weak? You're just going to let him do whatever he wants? And they strong-armed him into punishing Daniel. So he let all of these external voices overcome his internal right and wrong compass. He let peer pressure change his decision. Now, that's a whole message I could preach on its own right there, especially to a bunch of high schoolers. You mean what somebody else thought of you changed the way you acted? Yeah, welcome to high school. So, going on, Daniel 16 to 24, it says, so the king gave the order, and they brought Daniel and threw him into the lion's den. The king said to Daniel, may your God, whom you serve continually, rescue you. A stone was brought and placed over the mouth of the den. And the king sealed it with his own signet ring, with the rings of his nobles, so that Daniel's situation might not be changed. Then the king returned to his palace and spent the night without eating, without any entertainment being brought to him, and he could not sleep. So clearly the king is struggling with this decision because he knows it's not right. His right-wrong compass, his conscience is telling him like, man, why are you doing this? But he's being held liable to all the people telling him what he has to do. Continuing verse 19. At first light of dawn, the king got up and hurried to the lion's den. When he came near the den, he called to Daniel in an anguished voice, Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God, whom you serve continually, been able to rescue you from the lions? And Daniel answered, may the king live forever. My God sent his angel and shut the mouths of the lions. They have not hurt me because I was found innocent in his sight. Nor have I ever done any wrong before you, your majesty. The king was overjoyed and gave orders to lift Daniel out of the den. When Daniel was lifted from the den, no wound was found on him because he had trusted in his God. At the king's command, the men who had falsely accused Daniel were brought in and thrown into the lion's den, along with their wives and children. And before they reached the floor of the den, the lions overpowered them and crushed their bones. That's pretty gnarly. That's really gnarly. But the point is, Daniel was just in that den. If those lions were hungry, if they were ready to eat, man, why didn't they eat Daniel? But God. And that's the story of so many things in the Bible, and that's the story of so many things in our lives. But God. So what was the difference between Daniel and these other people that got thrown in? But God, right? Prayer can deliver things that we cannot. Daniel knew the law was in effect. He knew he wasn't supposed to pray to God, but he also understood the power that God had and the power that the king had. And they are not the same. Daniel also believed that if he were to meet his maker that day, man, God still got me on the other side. It's gonna be all right. Daniel's solution was to pray, not to argue, not to try to figure it out. I mean, he was prominent. He had pull. He had influence. He could have tried to talk his way out of it. He could have requested a meeting with the king and said, no, it's a misunderstanding. It's not my fault. I didn't mean it. I mean, how many times have we used those exact lines when we got caught doing something? No, it was a mistake. It's not what it looks like. Man, I was holding it for a friend. Pause on that one real quick. No. Those cigarettes, that alcohol, that wasn't mine. That was my buddy's. He left it in my car. Okay, but were you guilty? Yes. Did you do something wrong? Yes. Are you always in control? No. There is always a reason to turn to God and pray about your situation. I promise you, He knows better than you do what your next step should be. And usually, it's to come clean and pray some more and wait for the outcome on the other side. So Daniel, he counted on God to deliver him when he saw no other options. He was steadfast in his faith. He didn't make any protest. He released the wheel because he knew really he wasn't in control to begin with. He was on a path that God set forward for him, and he was just riding it out to see where it ended up. Like it or not, we're all going to face very difficult decisions in our lifetime. We're all going to be caught in our own lion's dens. And I'm sure a lot of us already have. What about that relationship that didn't work out, but you kept trying to make it work? What about that college you applied for and then you didn't get that acceptance letter? What about that job you had that didn't work out and you got fired and you didn't understand why? Right? What about that person that you've put so much time and energy into and you swear they were the one, but it's just not working out for me? It can't be true. Say it isn't so. Why isn't the world working out the way I want it to? Well, because your path and his path aren't always the same. And if we want to go to the book and read about which one of those paths know better, I got a whole list of scriptures here. I got about 14. I'll do 4 of them real quick. 1 John 3, verse 20. Great is our Lord and abundant in strength. His understanding is infinite, not finite, not partial, not a little bit, infinite. Psalm 139, verse 4. In whatever our heart condemns us, God is greater than our heart and knows all things. God is greater than your heart. What your heart wants is what your heart wants, but if that's not what God has in store for you, that's not it. And that's okay. God never said you won't hurt. God never said you won't suffer. God never said life would be easy. He just knows what's right for you. Matthew 10, verse 30. Even before there was a word on my tongue, behold, O Lord, you knew it all. Psalm 44, verse 21. O Lord, you have searched me and known me. You know when I sit down and when I rise up. You understand my thought from afar. You scrutinize my path and my lying down and are intimately acquainted with all my ways. Here at Momentum, we know that prayer matters. We know that some things are only possible through prayer and fasting because almost everybody here has already experienced that or seen it happen in someone's life. This church is built on miracles through prayer and fasting. And if you ever have a few hours to sit down, I would love to share some of those with you because then when they were shared with me, it blew my mind. Most people know that God is saying, that's not it and that's not the way when it becomes too difficult. When you feel like you're slamming your head against a wall over and over and over just to end up at the same starting point in the opposite direction, it's because that's what you want, but that's where God's pointing you. I don't believe we have a God of no. I don't believe that. I don't think any prayer request you've ever sent to God ends with a no. I think it's a yes, a not yet, or a, man, I got something better for you. Just hold on. Because I don't think we have a God of no. I think we have a God who knows what's best. And if you just wait and pray and you bear the strain of whatever is on your shoulders, eventually, you'll arrive at the not yet or the hold on. I got something way better for you over here. And that is our fundamental belief in nautical marker number 2, that some things are only possible through prayer and fasting. So if you ever have any issues letting go and letting God, understand that it can be difficult. That we are living in a fallen world. We do live in a world with sin, and not every day is going to be easy. Sometimes the way God pushing you is going to bend you. It's going to bend you. It's going to hurt you. It's going to put you over its knee and try to snap you. But if you just hold fast to that prayer and that understanding that his path is already outlined for you, I promise you, on the other side, you will be exactly where God wanted you to be. So all together, all of us just need to let go and let God. Now at this point, as always, I'm going to invite you all to join me in a prayer. We're going to bow our heads and say it together, because one of the most amazing things I've gotten to do so far as student pastor is get to lead people to passionately follow Jesus. And all that takes is one thing, and that is Romans 9, verse 10, to believe in your heart and confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord, to believe in the gospel. So I will give this sinner's prayer. We'll all say it together. And when it's over, all I ask is if you've said that for the first time and you've chosen to cross that line of faith, is you look up and make eye contact with me before I have everybody else raise their head. All right, heads bowed and eyes closed. Dear God, I know that I'm a sinner, and there is nothing I can do to save myself. I know without you, there is no way for me to get to heaven. I believe you died on the cross for my sins and my salvation. I believe you resurrected and ascended to heaven. As best as I can, I now transfer my trust to you. I know that I'm a sinner and I need a Savior. I give you my life. I receive your life. Now teach me how to live. If you said that for the first time, I just ask you to look up and make eye contact with me so I can talk to you later, have a conversation with you, and help you guide that next step in your life, because it's the greatest thing you could ever do. All right, everybody, eyes up. Thank you so much for being here again.